Okay, let's unpack this. You probably tap, swipe, or maybe click to pay multiple times a day, right? Without really a second thought. But behind every single one, there's this kind of invisible shield, a complex web of security protecting your financial info. So today we're doing a deep dive into that exact shield. PCI compliance. You've given us a fantastic stack of sources. I mean, everything from the basic definitions to the really intricate requirements, the history, how it works in the real world. Our mission here is to cut through all the jargon, find the insightful bits, and help you understand not just what PCI compliance is, but, well, why it's so critical today.
Yeah, it's truly fascinating when you think about it, how this standard, which is often totally behind the scenes invisible, it really forms the bedrock of, well, pretty much all digital commerce now. It touches almost every transaction you make, whether you're, buying coffee down the street or ordering from some huge online store. So our goal is to pull back that curtain, look at the behind-the-scenes stuff, and really show how to protect your credit cards, debit cards, even stored payment info from being misused, making this techie topic hopefully pretty compelling.
Right. So digging into the sources, one of the first things that really jumped out was that PCI compliance. It's not a government law, is it? It's actually a requirement from the big card brands, American Express, Discover, JCB, MasterCard, Visa. They got together and founded this global forum, the PCI Security Standards Council, the PCI SSC. They develop and manage these standards. But okay, at its heart, what does PCI compliance really mean for, say, a business?
Fundamentally, it means they have to follow a pretty rigorous set of policies and procedures, all designed to protect those card transactions and, crucially, stop cardholder data from being misused. And what's often, maybe misunderstood, is just how wide the net is cast here. We talk about securing the credit card ecosystem, right? But it's not just the little machine in the shop. No, it's wireless hotspots, it's e-commerce sites, mobile devices, servers in the back room, and get this, even physical paper records. Still counts. It's really about protecting that data wherever it goes across networks to different service providers. It's truly end-to-end.
End-to-end. That makes sense. And that philosophy really comes into focus when you look at the 12 specific requirements, the core of PCI compliance. These aren't just like suggestions. They're the pillars of cardholder data security. Now, when I first saw the list, some seemed, obvious, but others pointed out vulnerabilities I hadn't even thought about. Let's maybe dig into a few. Starting with network security. Requirement 1. Install and maintain a firewall configuration. Sounds basic, maybe, but it really hammers home the need for strict access controls, blocking untrusted networks, personal firewalls on devices. And then requirement 4, encrypt transmission of cardholder data across open public networks. So, strong encryption for any sensitive data flying over the internet, Wi-Fi, cellular, satellite. It acknowledges data's always moving.
Absolutely. And those first few really highlight something crucial. A lot of foundational security is just about doing the basics perfectly. Yeah. It's amazing how much data is in transit constantly, and if it's not shielded properly, well, it's incredibly vulnerable.
Right, which leads perfectly into system and data protection. Requirement 2, this one was a real eye-opener for me. Don't use vendor-supplied defaults for system passwords. Ooh, this feels huge. Like leaving your front door unlocked because the builder used 1234 as the code. It stresses replacing all default passwords with strong ones before a new device even touches the internet. Then requirement 3 focuses on protecting stored data. And the key principle seems to be, if you don't need it, get rid of it. Our sources say purge unneeded data at least quarterly. Then, requirement 5, use and regularly update antivirus software. Standard stuff, but vital. And 6, develop and maintain secure systems and applications. This means patching critical systems fast, finding vulnerabilities. And if you build your own apps, training developers and secure coding right from the start.
Yeah, that focus on proactive management, continuous upkeep. It's essential. It's not just about building a strong wall around the data. It's about looking after the data through its whole life cycle and making sure the systems themselves are solid. It really makes you think about how many potential weak spots there are, which ties right in to managing access. It's not just what you protect, but who gets near it.
Exactly. Which brings us neatly to access control and monitoring. So requirement 7 says restrict access based on a strict business need to know. The principle of least privilege, right? Only give access to people who absolutely need it for their job, and only for as long as they need it. Requirement 8, simple but vital. Assign a unique ID to every single person with computer access. For accountability. And here's one people might forget. Requirement 9 stresses restricting physical access. It's not just digital. Physical security matters just as much. Badges, keycards, biometrics for devices, files, even the building itself. And finally, requirement 10, track and monitor all access. Network resources, cardholder data. using audit logs, critical for spotting breaches, defending against attacks.
That complete view, covering digital and physical access, is absolutely key. It's a constant job.
Right, which leads to continuous improvement. Requirement 11 is all about regular testing, quarterly vulnerability scans, penetration testing, like a constant security health check. And finally, 12. Maintain an information security policy. This isn't a one-and-done thing. It has to evolve, be updated at least yearly, include an annual risk assessment, looking for new threats, new assets. It's basically a living document because the threat landscape never stands still.
Okay, so we've mentioned cardholder data quite a bit. For our audience who follows this stuff, it's obviously more than just a 16-digit number on the card. Yeah. What exactly falls under that term? And why is getting that definition precise so important for compliance? That's a really critical distinction. Cardholder data is basically any personally identifiable info linked to a credit or debit card. Yes, it includes the PAN, the primary account number, but also the cardholder's name, the expiration date, and that service code, the 3 or 4 digits on mag stripes, that defines usage rules. Now, what's absolutely vital, the rule is protection applies if the PAN is stored, processed, or transmitted with any of those other bits of data. Defining it so precisely, make sure nothing sensitive gets missed. And when you think about who has to comply, well, it's not just the giant banks. This is where merchant levels become really important. Okay. So if I'm running a small local shop taking card payments, my compliance load isn't the same as, say, a huge multinational company. Is that right?
Yeah.
How do these merchant levels actually differentiate the requirements? Exactly right. The payment card industry uses these merchant levels to sort of calibrate the security and assessment needed. It's based on how many transactions you process each year. Makes sense, right? Risk and resources vary with scale. So, level 1 merchants handle over 6 million transactions a year. These are your big global players. They need a tough assessment by a QSA, a qualified security assessor who then writes up a formal report on compliance, or ROC. Level 2 is between 1 and 6 million transactions. They usually do an annual self-assessment questionnaire, an SAQ, and they might need quarterly scans by an ASV, an approved scanning vendor. Level 3 is smaller, 20,000 to 1 million transactions annually. Also an SAQ, maybe those quarterly scans. And level 4 is the smallest 20,000 or fewer transactions per year. Think local cafes, indie shops, maybe e-commerce startups just beginning. They also do the annual SAQ, possibly the quarterly scans too. So while the core security goals are the same for everyone, the way compliance is checked, the depth of it, varies quite a bit.
It really sounds like an ongoing battle, doesn't it? Technology changes, threats change, so the standards have to keep up. How has the PCI DSS framework managed to adapt over time, especially thinking about things like mobile payments now?
It's definitely an arms race. And yeah, PCI DSS has had to evolve constantly since it was first formalized back in 2004 with version 1.0. Version 2.0 came in 2011, mostly language clarifications, better log management. Then 3.0 in 2013 was a bigger step. It brought in things like penetration testing based on methodology, keeping track of all hardware, software, better checks on third-party vendors, improved malware detection. But the latest one, PCI DSS 4.0, which rolled out in March 2022, that was particularly interesting.
Okay, and what's really different about 4.0? I've heard it's quite a significant shift.
It is, yeah. What's really insightful about 4.0 is how it moves towards being more outcome-based, less just ticking boxes. It kind of recognizes that threats are always changing, so businesses need to show not just that they followed a rule, but that their security measures actually work effectively in new ways. It updates things like multi-factor authentication, makes password rules tougher, adds new standards for phishing and e-commerce security. It even makes organizations assign clear roles and responsibilities for every single requirement, trying to build that security culture. And zooming out, you can see how the standards just had to evolve with how we pay now. The PCI DSS put out specific guides for mobile payments, updated them in 2017 for new mobile tech, and then again in 2022 to cover newer channels like Zelle and Venmo. That shift from physical cards to digital wallets, peer-to-peer, it creates totally new security challenges.
Wow. Okay, so given all this complexity and that constant evolution, what actually happens if a company just doesn't comply? Is it just a fine, or are the consequences more severe, more than just money?
Oh, the consequences can be really far-reaching. And it's important. Like you said earlier, PCI DSS isn't technically a government law. It's a contractual thing. It's baked into the agreements businesses have with their payment processors, like Square or Stripe. But the real costs of non-compliance, they can be huge. We're talking significant fines, yeah, tens of thousands, even millions of dollars, depending on how bad the issue is, if there's a breach. But honestly, beyond the money, there's massive damage to reputation, a huge loss of customer trust. And in the worst scenarios, companies can actually lose the ability to process card payments entirely, which could basically kill their business.
Right, that's serious. And it raises a key question. How is compliance actually verified? It sounds like a massive job.
It definitely is. Verification often comes through PCI audits. These are done by qualified security assessors, QSAs. They're independent security firms, trained and certified by the PCI DSS specifically to check if a company meets those 12 requirements. Vulnerability scanning, done by approved scanning vendors, ASVs. That's also often part of the audit process. So for businesses trying to get compliant with 4.0 now, some best practices would be really study the new standard carefully. It's more flexible, but also more demanding in ways. Set up a dedicated team to manage the transition. Do a thorough self-assessment first to see where you stand. And honestly, consider using vendor tools or bringing qualified third parties like a QSA to confirm compliance and find any gaps. It's an ongoing effort, not just a one-time check.
We've really unpacked a lot today on PCI compliance. From those 12 core requirements and why they matter, to how it's had to evolve with things like Zelle and Venmo, it's clear this isn't just about avoiding fines. It's really about protecting the trust that underpins every single digital payment we make. So next time you tap your card or click purchase, maybe you'll have a little more insight into that invisible shield working behind the scenes.
Absolutely. This deep dive really underscores that in our digital world, security isn't a static thing. It's not just about stopping hacks today. It's this continuous, evolving commitment to protecting the trust built into every transaction. It highlights that ongoing arms race, doesn't it, between innovation in payments and the constant need for vigilance. Maybe the biggest takeaway isn't just what PCI compliance is, but how it reflects this dynamic. So here's something to think about. Beyond meeting these standards, what further steps do you think consumers, or maybe businesses themselves, could realistically take to enhance this protection even more?